All right, checking back in. We're going to be looking at chapters 13 and 14 of spiritual leadership, and start off with a couple of um, quotes here. A verse is 2 Timothy 4:13. It says, "When you come, bring my scrolls, especially the parchments." Wow, what a weird verse to start off with. But really, this chapter is focusing on the leader and reading, and the chapter 14 is going to be talking about how we improve in leadership. And I think as we begin to look at the idea of reading, you can begin to see how reading is a way for us to improve our leadership. For us, if we are being intentional with what we read, intentional to learn, to grow, as in our leadership capacity, as well as in our spiritual walk with God. Are we reading God's Word? Are we reading books to help us understand God's Word? Are we reading books to help us understand how to lead others and love others and grow ourselves in the grace and knowledge of God's truth more? So really, this chapter 13, I'm not going to get a lot into it because it's pretty straightforward and simple, and it's understanding that, even in Paul's counsel to Timothy, he said, give heed to reading, is knowing that reading. Now, for us, it's a very different world we live in today. Back when this book was first written, there wasn't, there wasn't the World Wide Web and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't, articles and blogs and everything out there. It was just books, and you had to find the books and you read them and begin to go from there. Now we have at the access of our fingertips, the ability to look up anything, to ask anything, to know anything that's on on the internet, which sometimes we have to be very careful with because just because it's on the internet doesn't always make it true or right, and so we have to begin to evaluate that. But really, the point here, he says, a leader who intends to grow spiritually and intellectually will be reading, and that's the key question for you to really ask yourself: are you reading things that are helping you grow in your ability to lead and your ability to grow in your relationship with God? If you are, great. If you're not, start being intentional with that. You can look a little bit more at that chapter if you'd like. It gets into some levels of how to read and some things like that. But the reality of it is, just take a step today. Start reading. One reason why, if you got this book, well, you already done that. If you're someone who's just watching the videos, great. That's awesome, but just take the time to read too. Find books, find things that are going to help you in that. Now, chapter 14, that one is talking about improving leadership. In Romans 12:8, it says, if you are a leader, exert yourself to lead. Not every Christian is called to major leadership in the church, but every Christian is a leader because we all influence people. So you are leading people a direction. Whether you know it or not, you are leading people by your example. You either are taking or you're not taking. So for us, the first steps towards improvement involve recognizing weaknesses, making corrections, and then cultivating strengths. Do you recognize where you're weak? Do you recognize where you need to make some corrections in your life? Are you looking at the idea that here's some strength I have, so I want to spend time crafting that, cultivating that, making that better? So really, there's a part here where he gets into some things for us to do to improve leadership. I just wanted to highlight the 7 different things he mentions in areas and just kind of touch on that. The first one is administration. Are you spending time caring for, improving the character of your work? Are you looking at the level of where you're working, what you're doing, and seeing are there any defects or are there any places that maybe need improvement? And are you willing to work on those and kind of establishing that? Spiritual tone. I love this. The tone of the church or mission will be a reflection of its leaders. The spiritual health of the leadership group should be a primary concern among higher echelon leadership. Are you someone who is overseeing a group of people? If you're overseeing a group of people, whether they're volunteers or whether they're mentees or whether they're people you're just caring for or whether it's the staff, are you spending the time acknowledging their spiritual health? Are you talking to them about growing in their health? Next one is group morale. Friction among a team should be minimized. I think we know this. It's miserable. No one wants to work on a team when there's tension. And if there is tension and we don't deal with it, then everybody suffers. Everybody struggles. When problems are neglected, morale drops and performance decreases. I went to a leadership conference and heard Colin Powell speak. And when he came out, I don't remember anything else he said, but I do remember this. He said, if you don't deal with your weaker leaders, your stronger leaders will leave. And so if you are trying to cultivate strong leadership in a group or group setting, help either the weaker leaders, people, and the weaker leaders doesn't mean people that are just weak in leadership. It means people who are, they create tension, or maybe they're just not leading well. Maybe they need to be coached. Maybe the issue isn't to reprimand or rebuke, but maybe it's to come alongside, love, and coach and walk them through growth. But are you being intentional with helping them to grow so that you can continue to push and encourage and motivate the other leaders? Personal relationships is the next one. Um, are you creating personal relationships with your team in such a way that you can see everybody coming together and showing love? It's an example to love each other. Jesus talked about how a new command that he has given us, that people will know you're my disciples by the way you love one another. How are you doing that? How well are you doing that? Problem solving is the next one. One of our chief responsibilities is to solve tough problems with the organization. Creating problems is easy, solving them is difficult. Are you helping to solve problems, or are you trying to just ignore them and run away? And the last one here is creative planning. Criticizing plans are easy, creating them is much more difficult. Are you spending time to clearly plan and employ the things needed to see success in what you're doing? Hopefully you'll take some time, look over these chapters, and begin to evaluate where you are in your leadership capacity.